Okay. Good day, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. Can you? Oh, there I am. Look at that. I'm
Yeah.
good.
You
Yeah,
look
I'm
like you
good.
were froze there from when I thought it was just a picture. No, he's just immobile.
I am froze. Actually, I have let me show you, see if we can do this. Oh, you can't because you've got my background.
Yes. It's lovely
My
though.
yeah, well it's the Earth. It's a photo taken from the ISS a couple months ago, and it's a good one.
Hmm.
So it's it's interesting. We're
It's cool. We have some technology that serves us in wonderful ways. And this is one of those things where we have eyes that can reach out and actually show us the stuff we want to see.
yeah,
I,
the
I
I,
still
I
hope it's not filtered.
I can't, you know me. I can't. Oh man, I can't help but talk about the ISS and Suni Williams and her partner up there. It's ridiculous that Elon's not flown up and picked her up, and both of them. And my hearts go to them. I bet they're seeing all
Yeah.
sorts of beyond Earth sentience and interstellar conveyance flying around.
They'll never be allowed to talk about that for now. And I
Well, yeah,
suspect, like that was happening from the start when they got up there. Assuming their vibration is acceptable to that, you got
oh,
to believe that it's going on.
I think automatically with all of the negative waves that are coming from everything from I'll tell you right now, there's some really bad stuff coming off of modern naval warfare ships. Energy blast beams coming off of those things just from their Landsat telecommunications towers and beacons. Then there's the terrestrial ones here at home with the cell phone towers. Once you get out into outer space, I sincerely believe that without that negative interruption, I think that people automatically connect to the Gaia space frequency.
Vibration. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So it's,
That makes
I think
sense
it's
to
almost
me.
immediate, because I,
Mhm.
I don't know. I've met a couple astronauts now, and they're pretty interesting people, and every one of them cries when they see the Earth for the first time. They said it was like being born. And I remember when I first started talking about my excursion with Kim Jim on January 7th, 2017, when we pulled the ship up over South America, I could see Brazil clearly and the islands of Martinique. And as we were lifting way, way up, then I could see all of the Caribbean, and uh, it was fascinating. But once we got into space, I just started crying, looking out that window with Weimer standing next to me, sort of going there, you know. But so it's I understand what they say. So I've been doing really good with my quantum hypertext. This is what I work on when I'm not at the pie shop, and I'm going to be spending more time on quantum hypertext and also cutting and polishing and brooding my
That,
gemstones. My
that's your 3D thing. Now, you
Yeah,
just
but that's
illustrated the
the
two straddling
that's
things
the
you're doing.
right.
One's associated with the higher dimensions, and the other one is satisfying what I like to do here.
Oh,
Yes.
and it's one of those things where you're in your 3D world when we choose to follow our heart,
Yeah.
and when we're happy, then that's when you're just immediately connected to Gaia because the whole planet is happiness. It's just, despite ourselves, the
It's
planet is
begging us to tap into it for goodness
right,
sakes.
right, right. I think it's beyond begging. I think it's just sort of like mandatory at this point. And I left you a comment from your last upload, and it was great. Nice of you to support James because he's right in line with the same thing, and there's no denying it. This it's coming for them, and we're gonna go right on forward with the
Yeah.
beautiful energy of life and forgiveness and love and sharing. Everything should be free. It always has been that way.
Well,
So,
James is definitely one of us. And every time I get to
oh
point to
man, are you
another
kidding?
experiencer and push it out, it's just more validation for not just us, but everybody else,
Right.
that it's not about me, it's not about
Right.
you. Look at
Right.
when we find somebody who's got some expertise in a particular area, we push them forward.
Well, and it's interesting because when I had my experience when, and I've had many since, but a couple actually being taken away again for short trips. But when I was returned, you know how 4 hours was actually 4 days. When I was returned, it took me a long time to re-establish myself as far as being wanting to be anywhere near humans. And the
Yeah.
only, I had a great time staying at home for the first 3 months alone. And then my son would come and visit, and we were on the same frequency. So he was a human that I could just sort of get along with without freaking out. And then I had my pets. I have three rescue cats and two rescue dogs. And it's so cute, Lowell. Every time I walk in the front door, I sit on just past the doormat. I have a beach towel I sit on, and all five of them come up, and they all get along like,
Yeah.
pigs in grass. They just are having a great time. So the vibrations are amazing. Okay, so let me tell you something. I had a really great customer come into the shop, and he's ex aerospace. He walked away from Boeing, of course, and I don't blame him. Uh, and we got to talking about my math language, as you do, because if you're a PhD or two, three PhD person, and you think you know quantum engineering, quantum mechanics, and quantum mathematics, then I'm going to just push you right over the deep end and take your bosons, muons, and gluons and stick them where they belong. And so he had a great conversation with me for 45 minutes. And of course, I don't stop talking. So I took a breath after 10 minutes. And as soon as I took a breath and stopped to let him speak, he said, "Oh my God, you should be teaching this at MIT. Sign me up." And after the conversation, we agreed that we're going to put together a room of retired NASA astronauts and satellite people that do deep placement satellites, and talk about communication systems
Yeah.
and starting our own aerospace company. But this one is based on real engineers, real Air Force people, real people that have walked away from mainstream aerospace because we're all getting the message, right? And I try not to use the word "we" too much. And you're always correct when you use the "we" word, but it's the royal "we" because you're describing everybody.
Yes.
But as far as I'm concerned, these are all men and women. Oh my God, there's some beautiful 65-year-old gals that are just super brilliant and love talking about people from other planets. All right, so during the Tic Tac revolution from the fear box, all the other people who don't live in that fear box, which could be people that love Gaia, people that meditate, people that uh, make chocolate cream pie to feel good and eat it. It doesn't matter. Anybody that's outside the fear box that loves animals, likes to pull weeds and plant flowers, that kind of thing, they've all received the message. And I've seen so much evidence, you guys, in the last 6 months because I have to work for a living and I spend, 12 hours a day here in my shop and I just have to. Otherwise, Papa don't pay the bills and my son's rent and all the rest of that crap. But oh my God, there have been so many people that have received the message and are just responding to that conversation when you go, "You received the message, didn't you?" And all of a sudden, these people that you would never expect start going and talking about like all these wild things that have been happening to them and this new revelation they sort of woke up with one morning. So it's just been really beautiful. And, proud to say a lot of them are all good Americans that were in the Air Force. And now they
You're
just
in
don't
a
want,
great spot to
oh,
report
fuck,
that back to the rest of us with all the interactions you have with
I'm
people
right in the, I'm
and
right
the
in the middle of
nature of those.
aerospace land.
That's not by coincidence, buddy.
No, of course not. It's just part of the thing when Kim Jim originally told me that he would be sending people into my shop to help me cope with this. So
Yes.
to make a long story short, if I could, I went to go see two shrinks. I had a long conversation over the phone with Barbara Lamb because, she's a psychotherapist.
Yes.
And then I got to know Mary Rodwell. But then I went to go see my friend who is the FBI psychiatrist who's retired. He's in his late 80s. And he had the time to sit with me for 9 hours and listen to the entire story, names, people, places, everything, and said, "You've had an amazing experience. Embrace it." He says, "I've heard similar stories from officers in my career." So that, you guys, when we were all waking up 10, 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or some of us have been like this all of our lives, flower children since day one. Doesn't matter what level you're at. There's people that were in the FBI in the 60s who already dropped out of the system and turned into peaceniks and just earth lovers. There's people in the military that have done that recently, and I'm meeting them because I'm in ground zero for aerospace. I'm right next to El Segundo, and SpaceX is still very active here, right? They're in East Hawthorne, and we have an Air Force base, and we have Vandenberg. And tonight at 3 a.m. or tomorrow morning at 3 a.m., there's going to be a SpaceX launch, and it's a big one. So it'll be from Vandenberg, and it's going to probably knock off a big sonic boom or two. So I was talking to my friend, Mr. Mather, and so he's going to put together a group of scientists and astronauts that he's known all of his life from working at Boeing, who have all had the same experience he had. And we're going to all go into a lab, and we're going to sit down, we're going to reconnoiter, and we're going to discuss starting a company that builds a Earth to deep space communication, telecommunication system for people like us who want to send messages of love and harmony to other planets using frequencies, vibrations, and light codes. And it's going to be the real thing. It'll be $25 million satellites being sent out into deep signal space to receive a light signal from Earth and then transmit that via laser to Alpha Centauri or to Andromeda. It's gonna, it's going to be great. It's
when
going to
you
be the
started to
first.
share, the
Oh
stuff
fuck!
that
It's
you knew how to do with me, take a breath for a second, because I want to
oh yeah,
underscore what
yeah.
you're
But
saying.
so it's
Um,
crazy, right?
yeah. Um, shit, no, I forgot where I was going. I'll
No,
come
no, you
back
were
for a
gonna.
moment.
Go ahead.
Um, I'll come back to it in a moment because I want to make
Okay,
sure I
so well,
underscore what you're
I'll just
saying.
refamiliarize yourself with it. So it's going to be an official deep space satellite communication system, and
Yeah.
it's a lot like what Jimmy Blanchette is doing with his radio communication system,
Yes.
right? Because Jimmy's just an amazing guy, and so he's sending signals and receiving signals, and he's got the same mini ham radios, the handheld transistor radios, the good ones, and
Exactly.
they're all on the same friggin' channel, but he's getting a different signal and a different message on each one of them, which defies every law of known physics.
Okay.
And
Okay. Now I've got my mindset. So let me
bingo. I'm just
puncture
gonna
a pause
turn
button
the
for a
camera
second.
off, and I'm gonna turn the camera off and just listen to you for a minute.
When you first shared your experiences with me and shared some of the downloads that you received after you unpacked them, this technology for understanding light and sound and communication, especially, I could see it was what you were dialed into. Where I got hung up is that my intuition still tells me we're so close to the shift finally unfolding that we were never going to see that in a 3D world. That what Dave already had available to himself and ready to share when the time was right, we were never going to see that in this realm. I totally take that back. There's some time here in this last window where those types of things are actually going to be beneficial and lead us to the next place. Every time I think of us leaving the planet and going somewhere else in our carbon forms, human beings are not meant to be in space in this form yet, but stand by, because in a short stroke here, you are going to be in a body form that can make those trips. So my point is, the work that Dave's talking about putting into place, he's had in his skull for a few years now, and he shared it with a handful of us. Now is the time where see the rest of the world finally picking up on what Dave knows and what everybody else thinks it knows. It's time for it to take place. And the guy in the tribe that's already got to mastery this is just waiting to let it go. So back to you, bud.
Wow, yeah, thank you. That's pretty damn accurate. They've all tuned in,
Yeah.
and they've all tuned in. They've all had the message, and at one at a time, because I've been working with certain doctors from SpaceX and certain doctors from NASA and certain doctors from the US Air Force. And over a period of time, it was an eventuality. It was an event that eventually one of them would go to a function and say, "Oh, fuck, I know that guy from the pie shop." And then
Exactly.
and then they'll go to a different event and say, "Oh man, I know that guy. He's off the charts." Right? And so all of a sudden, they're all going back to work at NASA, the Air Force, and SpaceX, but they're talking about the pie guy, right?
Yes.
No, no pun intended. So it's
Correct.
like, okay, this is the path. And remember that we never wanted people to suffer when we move forward with Gaia, because it was explained to me in the form of visual dimensionality, where Weimer very carefully showed me a screen that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Earths. And each one of them was preceding the next. And that was the largest, smallest dimensional sort of scope that he could show me. He said that we were, by the time we discover 88 dimensions, because physics has already discovered 11, by the time we discover 88 is by the time we'll be ready for space travel. And you're absolutely correct. It's not going to happen for another 300,000 or 400,000 years physically, because when we get past the chemicals in the food, the chemicals in the planet, the bombs, and the rest of the shit, then we'll go back into our evolutionary pattern. I've already been discussing evolutionary pattern with all kinds of cerebral hemisphere specialists in neurology, doctors, and surgeons, and talking about how we've been evolutionarily stunted by the evil system. And so we're
Yes.
no longer evolving because of the toxicity in our penises, our ovaries, our water sources. Everything has been toxified with microplastics and chromium and
Mhm.
fluoride. And so all this shit's got to go. Well, so all of us that have detoxified ourselves as part of the chain and of natural behavior, we've already detoxified ourselves. We don't have to worry about it. But there's hundreds of thousands and millions of people that haven't, that are under the yoke of the bullshit regime. And so we don't want them to suffer. But Weimer showed me one planet moving into the next, but there was always a planet that was antecedent. And that's where they stay until they become like us and wake up. So the technology that we're sharing, we become the Egyptian gods.
Yes.
We leave, and the priests take over and pretend they're gods and pharaohs, right? The servants
That's
of the
really a
ancient,
wonderful characterization. I'm glad you
right?
put it out there that way.
So the servants of the great pharaohs from outer space, when the pharaohs from outer space left after they had trained everybody, then the servants became super greedy and super successful at controlling people, and then declared themselves pharaoh
Yes.
from Ra. And so
Yes.
then they became the gods and people worshiped them, but the pyramids were already built. So they had these magnificent temple complexes and geophysical and electrical technology. And then they had all of the engineering of mind control, all given to them by the satrapy of the Anunnaki and the ancient pharaohs. So bring that back to Earth. We become the next group of Pharaoh to go forward with Gaia into the new Atlantis. We're the children of the
Yes.
sun. We're the
Correct.
children of the sun. We don't go into the limestone caves with the military people to drink, Similac and eat macaroni and cheese, right? So we go
Yeah.
forward, but there's an antecedent Earth that is evolving. So the technology that we're sharing through contact right now is what benefits them. to going
Yes.
into embracing technology for the right reasons, for
Yes.
helping. We have the ability to open up a whole world of technology that removes all the pollution from the atmosphere, all the pollution from the ocean without harming any animals or any evolutionary pattern. We can go into that technology right now. And if science, and all these scientists that I've been speaking to love this, I tell them, you want to think about fractal nature of discovery. I said, instead of going down the radiological well where you created bombs and x-rays and chemotherapy, fuck that. You should have gone into the quartz crystal and water fractal well, where by this time our cars would be hovering above the ground and there would be
Right.
absolutely no pollution, nuclear or otherwise.
Yeah.
But it just depends on the purview. Well, all that evil influence and all the greedy dumb fuckers went down the wrong well. And they're still opening up fractal divisions of different pathways within radiology to continue within it. Now they're
Yeah.
doing micro thermonuclear devices that countries are looking at putting into towns to fire up the town. And when I think back about the cataclysm that Ben Davidson talks about, the micronova, well, if we get a micronova, that's going to shut everything electrical on the entire planet down. Well, if you
Nobody
will,
spends a lot of time on that feature.
right? And so in this 3D reality, in that 3D world that we're leaving behind, those nuclear power plants are going to shut down. There's nothing going to be empowered to cool them down. You're looking at 700 Fukushimas. And so
Yeah.
it's really the vibration of healing is what controls reality. And this is why, I've been preaching thoughts are things, because you generate and manifest the reality around you by the choosing of your heart. And so it's like James Gilliland says, and it's like I've been saying, impeccable soul, impeccable nature. Think about your thoughts that you keep and your daily
Yeah.
habits and your love of children and life and the planet and on all little animals. And if you don't have that going, then you're not going.
I want to point out for others that are listening to this that Dave is describing two timelines that are going on at exactly the same time. This level of awareness, and however it got into us, Dave made some really good points about the people that have cleared themselves in a variety of ways, and they're the most open to it. And then we have everybody else who's trying to hang on to their 3D life and their notions. However, where Dave talked about, something in antithesis of one, here is where I understand Earth was like a cell, and she's going through mitosis, and she's splitting into both those forms Dave just talked about, and it's happening now. This is why we have 1 foot in that realm and we can come back and report on it, and we have 1 foot in this realm and we can report on it. It gets harder and harder to come back to this one when you've seen that one. Okay,
Great.
back to you.
So yeah, that was exciting. That it was such high energy that my screen flashed and shut down. And
Yeah.
I've got 76% on my charge. I'm running off my landlord's Wi-Fi. The signal's clear as a bell. I'm sure I'm getting zapped on some level. So, but the whole thing just collapsed, and it's just that high energy because modern technology. I got a Samsung 24.
Yes.
It can't handle the Gaia energy. And I'm
Correct.
watching all kinds of great shows, and it just
Yeah.
can't handle it. You watch anybody's show like Vivian or yours or Becca, or James Gilliland's show, and something goes wrong just in the communication aspect of it, and then it pops back on. It's not even Big Brother. It's just the technology cannot take the powerful waves that are coming off of us.
And
And
that's absolutely right. And it's not like we're not still receiving other downloads.
right, right. It's been a miracle to go through the process of the awakening.
Yeah.
And the more the the more stuff's happening. The amazing shit's happening to all of us. It's okay. I can't really hear it. Amazing stuff's happening to all of us. And it's just been a fascinating thing to watch. So when Weimer told me about these planets in a row, he said that we're constantly moving forward, and it's part of the inevitable efficacy of time. Is what he said. He calls it the inevitable efficacy of time,
That's a good
where
label.
That's what he called it, and it was the way I understood it. I'm sure that his language was something else. And it really interesting quickly about sound vibrations and frequencies and languages. When you're in presence physically, the ones that have mouths that still have a larynx, because some of them just have like a vestigial mouth. It's like a pocket that they squirt a little enzyme thing into and then absorbs. But the ones that still have a mouth and a larynx, they issue sounds, and their lips move a little bit because they still speak the way we used to, or the way they used to, half a million years, a million years, 2 million years. So people are going like, well, how come they have eyes like that and heads like that and little skinny arms and blah blah blah? Well, we have the same attributes. So by the time our bodies are ready for space, then we start changing, because it's like, oh, we have the technology to fly to Andromeda and it's only going to take us 2 years. Let's go. Right. And so you go. And then when you get there, you feel a little funny because your bones are changing, and you start discovering forms of calcium that come from minerals off of different planets. You don't need to eat animals anymore. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's just the way it is. So we're all in an evolutionary process, and when we part this earth and go forward with the next Gaia in the evolution of peace and love and the freedom of all humanity, and all animals will be free. And this is about to happen. You can't stop it. And we're
Yeah.
and we can actually almost literally see the old world pass behind us in the form of it going away in the atmosphere. But so we become the pharaohs. The technology that we're sharing from the love that we get from our star families, we're leaving this behind for mankind, because I'm going to give them telemetry after I die, and they'll be able to prescriptively designate their path when they're going at 68,000 kilometers per minute or 100 million kilometers per minute.
Dude,
Doesn't
here's the
matter.
way I see it. That telemetry program that you have installed in you is going to be of use for you at the next level. But, dude,
Oh yeah.
you brought it to this density for us to use in the meantime. You're the bridge. So thank
What
you,
one of
man.
them? Oh, you bet, one of
Yes.
many. But I just wanted to share the undeniable, beautiful, overwhelming hope. I've been saying it. Everyone's been saying it. You've been saying it. Vivian and James all say it. Hope. We have so much hope, and there's so much love and so much care coming from our star families and from different groups and different dimensional spiritual beings and the Lemurians and the Atlantean spirits. We have so much hope coming to us, that's why is they're helping us leave this, because we cannot be part of the problem. The planet will never be a shithole. The planet will always be beautiful, and it will always have the ability to shake humanity off anytime she wants. Right? Tidal
Yes.
wave, tidal waves, continents cracking in half, people falling down, endless crevasses, volcanoes, asteroid impacts. All the Earth has to do is beam her magnetism towards the asteroid belt and pull one in.
Yeah.
And she will do it. If we ever get to the point where we are so destructive to Mother Earth, and we already are doing some stupid shit, then
Yes.
she'll just pull an asteroid down and put you all to sleep. And then
Over the last few years, the message I got, it wasn't last season. I was think it was the season before, was guides had informed us there were times in the past where our planet would have been destroyed and source would have
right,
began over again. But this is not one of those times. And this
that's
higher
right.
intelligence that's around us wants to see humanity survive and flourish.
Right. Because we become them. And it
Yes.
actually it actually interferes with the timeline when death occurs. When mass
Yes.
when mass deaths occur, it interferes with the vibration and the energy of what's being put into that moment of time that goes forward forever. You
Yeah.
see, you have an effect on time by the energy that you share with time. Time is a particle, not an infinite wave. Because if it was an infinite wave, that would be analogous to it having an ending, and there's no ending to time.
I
So that
love
would
every opportunity you get to put that in about
right.
time being a particle, because it so resonated with me the first time I ever heard it.
It's so true. That's why it works with gravitons, photinos or photons, and
Yeah.
electrons in the form of photons.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, gravity on, frequencies. But the thing is that after I finally got out of the house, after 3 months, I talked to Barbara Lamb. I talked to my friend from the FBI who was kind enough to spend time with me. And in his great age, he accepted the whole thing as natural and a beautiful thing. And he said it was one of the most beautiful stories he had ever heard. So, and because I had done all these other tests, he was the same guy I did all of my psych tests with when I was in the sheriff's department of Mendocino County back in the
You got to
80s.
wonder how many guys in positions like him started to have sessions,
Oh,
Dolores Cannon like, and he's
oh
got an
yeah.
archive of these things that he's never revealed
They're
before.
right, right. They're in a safe. They'll go to his daughter, and
Yeah.
it's fun. It's funny because he wasn't allowed to talk about it with his subordinates or superiors or equals. He just kept his
Yes.
mouth shut and just thought it was another version of God. And he was absolutely correct because God is love,
Yes. Well,
right?
they're
God is
finding other
love.
ways for the information to get out now, aren't
So,
they?
yeah, and you know what? This is like I've always said. There's good people and bad people and everything. Oh well, just try and concentrate on the good ones and the ones that you could save. And
Yes.
so we're special, but we're not special. This is what Kim Jim had told me. He said that there were many Earths. He said there were 17 planets exactly like our solar system set up in the Milky Way. And they're dotted all through the Milky Way. And some of them you just can't see because Betelgeuse is always in the way. And he said that some of them have been slated by themselves for destruction. It's a sad thing, but he said there was already 2 Earths that had nuked themselves. All right. And nobody goes to the planets because radiation's bad for them too. He said, but the planets will come back.
Yes. But
And
the
he,
space vibrations,
right,
that's the bigger concern now.
right. And so he said, you're really special, but you're not. And that's why you have to shepherd your own heart. That's why you have to be guided by your inner voice, in which we speak to, because we're part of your mother spirit, you know. And the Native Americans, the Navajo and the Hopi, they always had it right. The Diné,
Yes.
the Diné, they always had it right. And
Hmm.
so it's part of the Great Mother. Their hearts beat just as gently and as softly and full of love as ours do. But it's finding the moment to express those tender thoughts that are so important to help others lift themselves up. And if we
Yes.
could continually be that loving, nurturing spirit, then we can continue to connect with that loving spirit that's in all of our lives that helps us remain calm as the great change occurs. There's too many of us now; they can't stop us. And so, and then it was like watching
I
Mary
love to hear
Rodwell's
somebody else say it.
watching Mary Rodwell's show, and then getting a hold of her really helped because I sent her a whole bunch of photographs of ships and stuff, and she went, "Whoa, that's a big ship." And then listening to James Gilliland, back in 2017, because I didn't, William and I created that mantra in order to have them come down because we knew we were there that night. We saw one finally, and we were, convinced that they were there, and they are. They came down, and as a direct result of our reaching out to them, they've stayed in our lives, and it's a full-time relationship, and they're friends. I just I don't have a problem staying away from the community because everyone
Right.
thinks certain things about the UFO, the narrative, and the bullshit. And I've had very nice conversations with Viv about that, and she's like, yeah, the community vibe is cultish at this place, and that's why I won't go to Contact or the rest of that stuff because it's all Giorgio Tsoukalos and it's a tic tac. It's all bullshit for money. And
Right.
James Gilliland's been warning people about that for years. So
Yes.
Mary and James and Vivian Chauvet and Becca B, Soul Based Life, they're all people that I just sort of showed up on my phone and I started
Hmm.
watching them, and so I immediately resonated with them. And why? It's because they don't talk bullshit and they're not trying to make a buck from controlling the narrative. And so
Correct.
and I have to say, this whole drone thing is hilarious. I was listening to Whitley Strieber talk about that, and he thinks there's going to be some trouble. And okay, Whitley, but I think that the thing is they have to call them drones because it's more telomeres, and the ones that are not drones are telomeres. And we've been talking about telomeres coming down as a form of biometallic projector of both thoughts and images and symbols to communicate with us effectively. Because you
For
don't know the
months.
difference. Yeah, there could be a telomere behind a tree, and it'll project an image of a sentient being standing there talking to you. You're not going to know the difference because
Right.
you're just a monkey. And so that's how they do it without getting hurt, because there's too many wackos out there that want to blow them up. And so it's a fight of good and evil. It's the original premise, isn't it? It's fight of good and
Yeah.
evil. And so they're fighting for us. It's not just us being conscientious. They're fighting for us because
Yeah.
we're all part of the same team.
I'd
For
seen a
safety.
comment the other day about the contact that we have had and the people that are hearing about it for the first time, and whether they're getting excited about it because they all see it poses a threat. We can't get past those people's vibration. Although I'm encouraged by the others, especially the ones within the government that are kind of stepping up, because their own personal vibration is leading them to something they know is there before. And when you said it a moment ago, this is the thing that occurred to me right the day that Kumu started showing me pictures the first time, is that no one can stop anybody from having multidimensional experiences. Nobody. And so, how long
You've
is
always
this
said
going to
that.
go on before it's so widespread that you can't ignore it anymore? Well, you and I know what's happening over the last few days, my friend. We won't get into that detail. We'll talk about more maybe next week. But what we've learned now, on what we've really known and for like over 50 years, put a lot of things into perspective.
Right. And I
Yes.
remember I remember one day about 5 years ago, Ben Davidson started the conversation. I remember when I was 13, 14, or 15, and I kept like every once in a while take a quick look at the sun, and I got the strong feeling that something really big was going to happen in my lifetime. And I had the same feeling when I was 12. Once I was walking home from school. It was about, I don't know, a mile, and walking past the local park. I just took a little look at the sun and I said, something really big is going to happen in my lifetime. And it was interesting because whether or not it's a micronova, we have to remember that the sun is a beautiful geometric heliarcal uh, metallic hydrogen lens, and it's a conduit for great emissions from the central sun, from the beginning of time till the end of time when our sun changes into a neutrino.
Yesterday I was listening to the series on Netflix, The Offer, and there's a scene where they're talking about lighting. And the guy who plays Francis Ford Coppola answers because he was asked, "What are you going to use for lighting?" He said, "Yeah, that big plasma ball up there in the sky. You know that one? Yeah, that's the one I'm going to use."
Right. But it's great because the sun is a conduit for messages from Gaia to the universe. The sun is a conduit to send us signals from other suns. It's on the metaphysical side that goes far beyond what Ben Davidson wants to tell us about, because the man knows things that he'll never discuss, and he doesn't, and there's a lot of us that have a date and all sorts of stuff, and we just don't talk about it because there's no point.
Right.
And because that life is beautiful and every moment can be filled with joy. So,
I
let's just get them to wake up and keep going.
I'll keep reminding you guys there's a finite amount of three-dimensional time in this density remaining. Enjoy it while you can.
I get that from James too. He
Hmm.
he's it's urgent, okay, everybody. It's really urgent to make that final shift about your personality and that final little thing about your psyche, that you just don't need it anymore, and you could drop it and love yourself 100% of the time. Because when you do that, then the love flows continuously, and everything's going to be okay. Even though we all get personal attacks, it could be the IRS, it could be a spider bite. It's just, it could be a malevolent spirit in a spooky old barn. It doesn't matter where you're at. There will always be those little things that crop up that seem like a soul nuisance. They're not. that shit, man, just let it pass through you, because there's everything, every action, and every thought has its own eventuality. We don't need to partake in those things. We don't need to partake in those thoughts. Maintain your thoughts of harmony. Keep your chakras aligned. Remember that your seventh chakra is a beacon to the stars. And you can just at any time just send out those signals of love. And if you do what I used to do when I first started talking to everybody in your community, run a couple of algorithms concurrently in the back of your head. One of them is a mantra that speaks only
Mhm.
about world love and world forgiveness and hope. And the other one is the one that says hello to your friends that live above you. And you just have that little thing going, hi, you guys, going constantly in the back of your head. That's your shining light. You know, I light my way with my own shining light. I don't need a flashlight to see in the dark.
It'll be good for others to hear you talk about that kind of contact, because these people that have been reaching out over the last month or so all recognize that they're beginning to have that type of contact. And I remember the first time Dave was telling me about his stories and his contact and how it all flourished. And man, there's a pattern here that's established. So they found me. But let me tell you, what really kind of helped settle them into where they were the exchanges we were having together, where they got to hear what happened when Dave was lifted. Very similar to the things that are going on with them, and yet nobody knew about it yet. They weren't comfortable to talk to any about any of this. So I understood what our role was going to be, and I was happy setting into the background, kind of sequestering to just help the tribe that's going to show up. Well,
Right.
you and I know now where you and I are going to be going next, because nobody is happy with the government officials that are being pushed forward to give us explanations about the things that are going on. And you know, we're getting set up to answer that in a more real way from a source not government related.
Well, it's so true. And it's like James Gilliland says, someone has to hold them accountable and hold their feet to the hot iron, because we
They
really,
didn't want to do that, of course, but now
but
we're at a place
that's,
where they can't avoid
yeah.
it anymore.
Well, it's a 3D crossroads. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I've goombaya off the planet 100% of the time. I have to deal with shit just like everybody else. I pay my bills, brother, and we're living in that system.
Yeah.
The system's gonna collapse. It's gonna collapse soon. You don't have to worry about paying taxes anymore, or the bank owning your house. You're just gonna be sit your ass in your house. It's your house, because the banks
Yeah.
won't work. The banks won't work anymore. The computers won't work anymore. None of that stuff. And the Anunnaki used to call us what Zachariah Sitchin translated from ancient Sanskrit or ancient Akkadian or Sumerian. Zachariah Sitchin is a fascinating guy. He wrote the 12th Planet and the rest of the stuff about Anunnaki. That most of the lore and the tales when people talk about Anunnaki is all taken from Sitchin's work. Um, he talked about what the Sumerians called us. The ancient Sumerians called the original worker Lulu Amelu, uh, Amelu, Amelu, Lulu Amelu, and that was the worker, the digger. And they harvested gold. And these are the same bastards that set up the whole system of uh, kingships. And that's why we all became retarded in the view of power and corruption, is because the Anunnaki were involved with us. Now we've removed those shackles from ourselves. And it's funny because we've stepped out of the 3D box. It's like looking at a Monet at the gosh darn museum. You can see it going on. They're all running around doing what the king tells them to do, and they're all trying to hoard their gold and the rest of it. And it's all bullshit. It's nice to be
Right.
not involved with that anymore, right?
I know. Oh, yes. Yes.
And,
It
and it's so
doesn't reduce what's going on around you, but we found ways to just focus on our attention.
And it's funny too, because we are going to leave technology behind for them, because the stuff that we're going to leave is not weaponizable stuff. It's going to be stuff for
Correct.
communicating only. And there's going to be plenty of people waking up in the future. All right.
Hmm.
The future, we're going to be someplace else. they have a future, and there's going to be another separation, another division until it finally goes down to the final one bad person on the planet, and then they die from their own corruption and self-loathing. But
Yeah.
it's eventually, it's us escaping them, and it's them being pointed out by us, and their numbers are dwindling. I've had
Yeah.
so many confirmations from our star families, and meetings from angels, and meetings from people from different worlds that have all told me, look, we've been fighting to get rid of the dark agents of control, and our presence has been known very heavily on your planet for the last 2,000 years. And it's just the way it is, and it's going to increase. So that's why, yeah, let them call them drones. The telomeres, you guys. And this is the mass landing. This is the mass communication. They're trying to wake as many of them up as they can. Not us, them. They're trying to wake up as
Yes.
many of them as they can, like they did to people like me, right?
Right.
And this is how it starts. You see the sphere, and then you start asking questions. In the sphere, the drones they're watching are all delivering little messages with flashes of light. We all know how that works, CLPF and
Hmm.
CLPT.
Yes.
And so they're all waking up too, but they're just waking up in their own time. So stop paying attention to them. That's their process. You've been through yours. Just keep working your own miracles on this moment, because
Yes.
we do discuss this moment, the now, be here now, and not in yesterday, not in some regret, not in some anger form. Just be here now and just work your miracles, because they are waking up. This is the big
Hmm.
wake up, because it's all about to shift, and they're trying to save as many souls as they can.
Yeah. Well, I f- I feel a little overwhelmed, and I was just listening. But we've been riding a little energy wave for a few days, and um, like I had kind of implied a little while ago, there's some information that came my way, and always when it comes my way, it's going to come Dave's way. He helps me resonate with what I think I've received, and what I received. I don't know how common this knowledge is, regardless. It's just one more validation in my mind that where we're being positioned to assist others in understanding this transition, that it's all been accelerated. We've been thinking that we've been fighting against resources within here that has not been transparent, hasn't helped us understand any of the stuff we're going through. But now they recognize that after 50 years of this cover up, they can't cover it up anymore. And what I'm led to believe is that there are going to be people unassociated with the government that are going to be pushed out as subject matter experts, experiencers, and those offered to kind of explain the phenomenon that's going around, because the government can't or won't, whatever it is, but they can't not do it anymore. Over the last 2 days, here's the best evidence that we're not tolerating when they march somebody from the Pentagon and government officials and tell us, oh, they're just drones, they're not anything. Well, we know that. We know that some of them are, in fact, drones, but some of them are not. And that's what
Right,
we want to focus on.
right. Well, and it's funny too, because I've heard a lot less about bullshit because I don't pay attention to it. And so it doesn't
Correct.
matter how many times they throw people like George Soros up as the next guy of the people. They may as well drag back Corey Good. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
such a joke. It's just, and look at it. Look at the UFO community did for that man. It's just
Yes.
such a joke how things just the truth will out, and the fakes fall apart. And we can go on naming names, but what's the point? Because I don't pay attention to the bullshit. It's their
Yeah.
dimension, so we don't have to worry about that. Remember that what they are telling those people are drones. It doesn't matter what they tell them, because they're going to get the flash. There may be some drones. I'm telling you, there may be 100 drones, because there's a bunch of kids that think it's funny, but
Right.
but there will be some that are not, and they're telomeres. And the part of the reason the drones are there is because the government's putting them up, because they know
Yes.
that this is, if they use an F-15 to chase them down, what's the point? If they blow them up, they're not hurting any entities. So they're using drones, and they're trying to use the drones as an excuse for telomeres. And I've been telling everybody for years now, mass landings coming. Eric the Angel,
Hmm.
that came and visited me, he told me that the nighttime sky would turn to day, and this is happening. All the revelations that I've received from my friends giving me these gifts and these conversations. Jeez, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I was on Kim Jim channeled through me for the first time publicly on Vivian's show, and he said, Elon Musk is retiring, and that was probably a year ago, or 6 months, 7 months, 8 months ago, 9 months ago. And there was comments on her thing like, yeah, what, this guy knows Elon Musk? Well, yeah. But the thing is that what's he doing now? He's going to go work for the US government. Duh. So it's all been called out. It's not me. I'm just the voice, the channel. I'm just the
Right.
messenger. Just the messenger. And don't shoot the fucking messenger, you guys. Listen. So just stay in your lane, right? But you have always been talking about there's no way people can control your ability to step into another dimension. No way on any
No.
level. And the
No.
CIA tried. CIA tried with all those brainwashing programs and remote viewing programs, and all the contrivances to get people upset have all been
Yeah.
discussed by people like Dr. Michael Salla. I'm talking about secret bases and reptilian armies and all this other crap. Who gives a shit? All that stuff is diminishing. There's no point
Yes.
in hyperbolating evil. Why are you discussing this? Because the only message that comes from our star families is one of hope, love, and compassion. They
That's
love us.
my attitude. Thank you.
They love us so dearly, and they just feel so bad about the shit that all of us are going through because our hearts are alive. Our hearts have awakened our minds, and our minds communicate with them. And they just want to help us so much, and they are. So, the government puts up drones to tell people they're drones. It's just another big scam. It's all part of their Project Bluebeam and the rest of that crap when they're going to start. The TRB-3s will be flying around and dropping lasers on people and stuff. It's just part of their scam. But remember, we're moving away, and we've moved away from that reality. We're not in it. So,
Right.
and remember that our friends will help them too. It's not your responsibility. Don't get sucked into their narrative. Just let it go and just keep doing what you're doing. Plant some flowers and kiss your neighbor.
Yeah. Somebody was talking in some documentation I'd seen over the last 2 days. There was a dialogue going on with some people that were newly initiated into this, and the question was about hostile aliens was how they characterized it. And what they were told is that there's lots of higher intelligence around us right now, and they've been here for a long time. They're here to protect the earth and humanity as a result of all of that. If they wanted to do any damage to us, it would have been done long ago, but they
Well,
haven't.
right. Well, there are Gaia warriors that come from other planets, and you betcha, when there's some Chinese billionaire who hates animals over in Africa paying $10 million to go shoot a lion, they do it all the time, folks. Animals are
Yes.
constantly under threat by billionaire and millionaire businessmen. Texas, Charles Hurwitz, the man that owns all the ancient redwood forests in California, cuts them down and kills all the owls and the bears and the cougars. They hate animals, and those people pay $1 million, $2 million, $10 million to go shoot an elephant and to go shoot a lion. Don't think that shit's not going on. Those
Right.
people they're in hell, and there are Gaia warriors that come down and kill those people, and
Yeah.
they come from other planets. And yeah, they may be deemed as evil entities, but I tell you what, they're actually fighting for Mother Earth. And there is discernment. Okay, there's your own
Yes.
personal discernment, but they have discernment too. And if your heart and your energy is in the right place, you're going to shine. You're going to be the beacon of love. And while that guy, a warrior, is walking right past you, you're not even going to see him. He's going to be looking for the real dangerous ones that they need to take out in order to perpetuate a future of love and kindness. And yeah,
Yes.
that's tough shit. There's always been evil people that need to go. There's evil entities that need to go. That's not who we are. We are awakening children who want the best thing for our children and for the future and for the planet. We don't have to worry about taking down and taking out the evil ones. That's all being done.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
just keep your heart full of solemn peace, forgiveness, and compassion. Just think like a bodhisattva. While all these terrible things are going on, do what you can in your small way or your large way to make the world a better place. And that's all part of the transition of leaving the old world to them so that you can move forward into the new world with your children full of love and light, really. So, well, it's been great talking to you, man. I
You
have,
too. It's, we seem to go through these cycles where
yeah,
there's
well,
a
yeah,
lot of things
this,
to cover and then there's not,
right.
but we're back to a stage where, oh yes, there's very much a lot of things
But
to cover.
you can't shut people like us. You can't shut us out. You
No.
can, you can wonder why we're doing what we're doing after all the shit that we've been through, right?
Yes, but at the same time, I think people that have been listening to us for a while now recognize that we never postured ourselves to be a weekly show. And whether we had anything to say or not, we were going to show up and entertain you in some way. That's not the way we roll.
No, we had Star Chat, and Star Chat's over.
Yeah.
Get over the corpses. The ships are pretty. It isn't about any of the shit that you see. It's about the
Yes.
message. It's about the message, right? And they couldn't say it any louder, guys. There's like a frequential loudspeaker above the planet that's made from light, and they're screaming in it, saying, "Wake up! Love each other. Wake up! Everything's fine. We love you." And just listen. Just tune in. Just
Yes.
tune in and send a
Yeah.
message back and say, "Hey, we love you too." Right? Thank you. Everything will
Yeah.
be fine. Everything's going to be fine. So just stay in that thing of love. I've got apple ginger cakes, and I made a couple of heavy butter vanilla gâteau, and I've made homemade marzipan, which is a beautiful almond treat. And I'm going to put that on top of the vanilla gâteau and then enrobe the whole thing with tempered dark chocolate from Belgium.
Thanks from all of us who aren't close enough to enjoy any of that. It
It's going to be
sounds
amazing.
delicious.
Oh, it'll be great with an espresso. All right. I love you guys. I hope
Love you
everyone
too.
is in good health and in a good way. And I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Merry Christmas to all of your family. And of course, all of the members of this organization, this Lowell Johnson channel group, and all of my friends and you guys, I love you very much. Some of you that come over to my channel, it's just been the nicest little gift this year. And I love hearing from you guys. So peace up, everybody. Everything's cool. And the new year, 2025, is going to be so much more better than 2024. Believe me, everything's
Yeah.
going to be better.
That's right. Thanks,
Yeah.
buddy, for the shift. And I suspect you and I are going to have a follow-up sometime soon. So look forward to that.
I look forward to it too. I gotta go. Why don't we catch up
Okay,
later?
great. Ciao, buddy.
See you, bro. Later.